Former NFL quarterback Steve McNair was found shot to death in a condominium complex in Nashville Saturday.
When police officers arrived in response to that call, they found two individuals who had been shot to death inside the residence, one female, one male.
The Bengals wide receiver Chris Henry has died one day after suffering injuries from falling out of the back of a pickup truck in what authorities describe as a domestic dispute with his fiancée. The 26-year-old Henry was away from the team because he had broken his forearm last month in a game against the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals had placed Henry on the season-ending injured reserve list. Police say the dispute began at a home about a half-mile from where he was found. Henry jumped into the bed of the truck as his fiancée was driving away from the residence.
That other tragic story over the weekend, breaking new details in the NFL tragedy in Kansas City. Chiefs linebacker Jovan Belcher fatally shooting his girlfriend and then taking his own life. Just 24 hours later, the team finding the strength to get back on the field. ABC's John Schriffen is in Kansas City with the very latest on this story. John, good morning to you.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel.
Hey guys, did you know that off the field, NFL players face dangers that can sometimes lead to tragic endings? Today, we're going to delve into the heartbreaking stories of three NFL players who met untimely demises: Steve McNair, Chris Henry, and Jovan Belcher. These three players were not just athletes, they were fathers, sons, and friends. Their stories shed light on the challenges and pressures that NFL players often face in their personal lives. Let's take a closer look at their lives and the events that led to their tragic ends. A professional athlete comes with immense pressure to perform on the field, but what many don't realize is the toll it can take off the field. From dealing with injuries to managing fame and fortune, NFL players often face a myriad of challenges that can impact their mental and emotional well-being. McNair, a former quarterback known for his toughness and leadership, tragically lost his life in a murder-suicide in 2009. Chris Henry, a talented wide receiver, passed away after falling from a moving truck during a domestic dispute. Jovan Belcher, a linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, took his own life after fatally shooting his girlfriend. These devastating events shocked the sports world and left fans mourning the loss of these players.
NFL quarterback Steve McNair was found shot to death in a condominium complex in Nashville Saturday.
When police officers arrived in response to that call, they found two individuals who had been shot to death inside the residence, one female, one male. We now know that the male deceased is Steve McNair.
Police say the woman was not McNair's wife, Michelle. The scene of the shooting is within view of Titans Stadium, where McNair played most of his 13 seasons in the NFL. A police spokeswoman said that McNair was known to visit the condominium area, but didn't know if he was an owner. In fact, not much was known about the double killings early in the investigation.
It's going to take many hours to process the scene. I don't have any answers for you now as to what's happened, who's responsible, what the circumstances are.
McNair began his career in 1995 with the Houston Oilers, who eventually became the Titans. He was a double threat who could hurt opponents with his running as much as his passing. The three-time Pro Bowl quarterback had Tennessee within a yard of forcing overtime in the 2000 Super Bowl that they lost to St. Louis. McNair was so banged up at the end of the 2002 season he couldn't practice, but he guided the Titans to wins in the final 5 games, leading them to the AFC Championship game for the second time in 4 seasons. McNair threw for over 31,000 yards and 174 touchdowns in his career. He retired after the 2008 season. Steve McNair was 36.
About how former NFL quarterback Steve McNair died have now been put to rest. CBS News correspondent Priya David is here with the latest. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, everyone. Police in Nashville confirm ex-NFL quarterback Steve McNair was murdered by his girlfriend, who then shot and killed herself. Yesterday, police released video of the girlfriend who was pulled over and arrested for drunk driving 2 days before the couple died in the murder-suicide.
This video shows a police officer giving 20-year-old Sahel Kazemi a sobriety test, while McNair, who was a passenger, remains in the car. Kazemi repeatedly asks the officer to have McNair come to the police cruiser where she's sitting, but McNair then leaves in a cab without ever coming to talk to her. 2 days later, on the 4th of July, the former football star's body was discovered inside this Nashville condominium. He'd been shot 4 times, twice in the head, twice in the chest.
There's no doubt, we believe now at this time, that McNair was seated on the sofa and likely was asleep.
Next to him, the body of Sahel Kazemi with one self-inflicted gunshot wound to her temple and a pistol she'd purchased 2 days earlier. One of McNair's close friends stumbled on the dead pair and called 911.
I got to be the one to make this call. It's so messed up.
Friends of Kazemi told police that the 20-year-old had suspicions that McNair, a married father of 4, may have had yet another woman on the side.
We do know that she was clearly sending a message to people during the last 5 to 7 days of her life that things were going bad.
Friends and co-workers say there was no indication Kazemi planned to harm McNair or herself, although she had followed a woman she'd seen leaving McNair's home. McNair's wife said through a representative she had no idea who Kazemi was.
Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Chris Henry has died 1 day after suffering injuries from falling out of the back of a pickup truck in what authorities describe as a domestic dispute with his fiancée. The 26-year-old Henry was away from the team because he had broken his forearm last month in a game against the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals had placed Henry on the season-ending injured reserve list. Police say the dispute began at a home about a half-mile from where he was found. Henry jumped into the bed of the truck as his fiancée was driving away from the residence. At some point when she was driving, police say Henry came out of the back of the vehicle. Henry's on-field career was marred by several off-field incidents that included 5 arrests and repeated suspensions. The 9-4 Bengals play in San Diego against the Chargers on Sunday. John Klobuchar, The Associated Press.
New information on the death of Chris Henry. Good evening to you. I'm Cherie Palolo.
I'm Jack Atherton. No alcohol, and it seems no death wish behind the traffic accident that took the Bengals' life. News 5's Karen Johnson is live with a #1 story. Karen?
Well, Jack, this 4-page autopsy report was released just hours ago, and the medical examiner says Chris Henry's death was an accident. 6 months ago, the NFL, the Bengals, and Cincinnati lost a star. 26-year-old Chris Henry died in Charlotte, North Carolina, after an argument with fiancée Lainey Tonga. Henry was standing in the back of Tonga's pickup truck when he either fell or jumped out. Tonight, a cause of death, blunt force head trauma. The manner of death ruled accidental. The Mecklenburg County Medical Examiner's Office says Tonga was going about 19 miles an hour at the time. Henry hit the pavement, rolled, and was immediately unresponsive. Autopsy findings include multiple blunt force injuries. The most significant was one to the head. No traces of alcohol were found. The toxicology report didn't include any other tests for drugs. The ME says it's impossible to know whether he jumped or fell. Either way, Chris Henry's death would be classified as an accident. And earlier this year, police cleared Tonga of any wrongdoing. Henry's family, by the way, donated several of his organs, including his heart and lungs. Reporting live at Paul Brown Stadium, Karen Johnson, News 5.
That other tragic story over the weekend, breaking new details in the NFL tragedy in Kansas City. Chiefs linebacker Jovan Belcher fatally shooting his girlfriend and then taking his own life. Just 24 hours later, the team finding the strength to get back on the field. ABC's John Schriffen is in Kansas City with the very latest on this story. John, good morning to you.
Elizabeth, good morning. Chiefs head coach Romeo Crennel said he made the decision to play the game to help his players take their minds off their, quote, misery for a few hours. Elizabeth, good morning. Chiefs head coach Romeo Crennel said he made the decision to play the game to help his players take their minds off their, quote, misery for a few hours. Meanwhile, this morning, as police, fellow NFL players, and friends try to figure out just why Belcher took his life so violently, ABC News has learned that he regularly visited gun ranges and had several weapons in his home. ABC News has learned Kansas City Chiefs linebacker Jovan Belcher not only owned guns, but he and his girlfriend Cassandra Perkins used them recreationally.
I know that before she was pregnant that they liked to go to the gun range and shoot, and that it was a lot of fun for them.
Police say Saturday, Belcher turned one of those guns on Perkins, reportedly shooting her 9 times at the home the couple shared with their 3-month-old daughter. The child was spared. But police say the 25-year-old then drove to Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium, thanked his coaches for believing in him, and shot himself as they watched in horror.
It's hard to believe you can go out and focus on football in the wake of such a devastating situation.
Overnight, a somber and at times silent stadium.
Fans joined the Chiefs organization in a moment of silence.
Players and fans mourned Belcher and Perkins.
It's tough. You miss him, you know. He's a great guy, great teammate.
Yet even as the team gathered after the game, questions swirl about what could have set Belcher off.
When any person has an issue or has problems, if they're not totally honest with you about their issues or their problems, then you cannot give them the correct help.
Belcher had no history of domestic violence, and while playing football at the University of Maine, he joined the Male Athletes Against Violence Initiative. Student athletes who signed up said they would educate themselves on issues surrounding domestic violence. The couple reportedly argued in the hours before the shooting about a concert Perkins attended Friday night. Brianna York knew them both. She says while they occasionally fought, they always reconciled.
The last time that they, had a little fight, that she left for a few days, but she didn't move out. She just took a little space, but she was never planning to just leave.
Now, some are now questioning if Belcher had undiagnosed head injuries, but the team has denied those rumors. George?
Linebacker Jovan Belcher is with us under the helmet. Jovan, your career in some ways mirrors that of the Chiefs' success over the past 2 years. You come in as a rookie free agent out of all places, Maine. You make the team by special teams. And now this year, you've started 13 games, and you're quietly approaching 100 tackles in your second season in the NFL.
I mean, it's been a great blessing, I'm trying to catch up to DJ. He got 100-something, so, I'm trying.
Did you think when you came in here a year ago, I'm sure the thought process is different. Back then, you were trying to make the team. Now you're preparing each week as a starter on this roster.
Coming in, everyone hopes for the best. Even now, you hope for the best, but you still want to set your goals even higher and higher to the point where they're unbelievable, but you still want to set them high, and you want to
like what it do, ayy. I just put a little shawty swerving in that coat, ayy. Cheeky, I don't let nobody